Thank you for listening to the Impact Leaders podcast, featuring leaders in sustainable and impact investment, sharing their stories, experiences, and advice to increase awareness and highlight best practices in order to help us transition more capital into the industry faster. I am grateful that you're choosing to invest your time to listen to our guests, since I know that you're going to feel encouraged and inspired. I am JP Dallmann, founder and CEO of ILA Partners, and we're the proud sponsors of the podcast. ILA Partners is an advisory and soon-to-launch multi-asset management firm targeting to acquire and scale investment funds focused on sustainability and impact, one of the fastest-growing areas of investment management globally, enabling investors to generate returns with confidence whilst having a net positive impact in the world. Our mission is to facilitate and accelerate the transition of 5 billion of capital to sustainable impact investing in the next 5 years. If you would like to explore the opportunity of working together, email contact@ilapartners.com for an introductory and confidential conversation. Your support means everything to us, since it's what really keeps us going. So make sure you share our work with someone that will benefit from it. Please remember to subscribe to get the notifications and check the notes from each episode. We hope you enjoyed today's special conversation.
Hello, JP. Thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed. I'm really excited and honored to have you here, and I can't wait to hear more about your thoughts on impact leadership. I think the folks in our membership program are going to get so much out of today's session, so I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm going to introduce you. And I'm honored to have met JP through Clubhouse, and I do feel like we've become friends. I really respect what he does. He is an award-nominated sustainable and impact investing advisor, champion, thought leader with over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry as a banking executive and advisor at major institutions such as HSBC, RBS, and PwC. He is the CEO of ILA Partners on a mission to create profit and impact, advising executives and companies, working mainly with value-aligned investment managers and global leaders to help them transition into and scale sustainable impact and investing. And guys, I am going to be reading the entire bio because he's done such amazing things, and he's doing such amazing things that
we should stop now. We should.
No, there's more. He's also the host of the renowned Impact Leaders podcast, so definitely check it out, featuring some of the best investors in the world and leaders focusing on sustainable and impact investment and performance with purpose, supporting companies that are solving the world's biggest challenges. He recently launched the Impact Leaders program, inspired by his clients and the need of many to get the support they need to become a magnet of the right opportunities. JP supports various initiatives to raise awareness about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, including the Impact Founders Community, which he co-founded, and Fast Forward 2030, where he is a board member. He is also an author and a contributor on Forbes.com, and participates as host and panelist at relevant events, partnering with key figures and major organizations to share best practices and inspire others to push the important agenda of sustainable finance. Wow, you are doing some fantastic things. It's true. Yeah. And he is also extremely humble, by the way, but he is very inspirational, at least in the conversations that I've had with him and the interaction. So thank you so much, JP, for joining me and for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Anca. Thank you for doing what you're doing as well,
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an impact leader? Because I think our listeners want to know, how did you get where you are from where you were?
Yes. So, well, interesting enough, we may mention the word Clubhouse a couple of times here, as we did meet there. And it has been, I was just saying before we started, it has been quite instrumental, right, in many things that we are doing. But we were in the room, I think, last week, right, talking about values in one of the values club, and
Yes.
about careers, right? And I kind of touched on the story there, and is obviously, I think it's over 20 more years now on my career, and there have been some, let's say, pivotal moments, and many moments that maybe I didn't realize where this was going. So it was interesting at the time, how you couldn't see, and then kind of it all came together, more and more as the last years kind of passed. Um, but if I had, in terms of what I'm doing right now, with all the combination of the things that you said, everything around, founding ILA Partners, the impact leaders, as actually as a brand now, which is developed, there's kind of a combination of points, and let me start maybe by that. So the uh, kind of is it was all a bit around the entrepreneurial side, you could say. I was kind of testing and trying new things, all throughout my career, building a little bit of testing concepts, ideas. I was being driven by so many kind of desires and wants, to do something good, or to actually do something productive maybe first, and then it was started just the values part, started to kick in as I think you get maybe, I don't know if it happens to everyone, but it definitely tends to happen in different ways to different people at different ages in terms of your different crises, right? But definitely there was a part where I started looking at my values, looking at, okay, what I was doing and what was making me feel, um, kind of, let's say, happy,
Hmm.
um, and then understanding how I could start having an impact on people. I think that was the first thing. Uh,
Yes.
I think I
Yes.
very briefly mentioned to you, there was a part where, so obviously I was, as a career training, a financial auditor, an investment banker, part of executive management teams, at global banks. But then there was something around just people, right? So just trying to work with people and help people, something about trying to help deliver what we were trying to deliver. So trying to influence people and inspire people. So there was one part was that. So there was, I think I mentioned to you, I published that first book, called Life Transformation. And then as I was doing that, I started realizing that kind of what we were doing in some of the roles and some of the banks, and some of the products and some of the sectors that we were supporting, were not really aligned to what I thought was not the best thing we could do. And obviously, in parallel, without me knowing as much, there was a whole movement happening, which, people talk about ESG, but there's a lot more other things happening, in parallel. Like we were talking, I think, about with you yesterday about triple bottom line and John Elkington, and then now people that like John that have been doing this for like many 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 decades, right?
Yeah.
And then but there was a part where I personally woke up, and then on the on with that curiosity and intention to go and understand, okay, how what else is there, what else is happening,
Hmm.
what is the best as well out there. I kind of held myself always striving for more and better. I started, basically connecting with everyone and anyone that was doing the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, I launched ILA and Partners. The podcast was maybe before, after, in between, uh,
Yeah.
and then
Sometimes it just happens kind of seamlessly. It just flows in and out, right? One.
yes, because it's interesting. It's interesting. Like maybe I always talk about the I recently, I think, I mentioned to you, I just put together a short paper to talk about, the 6 reasons why, you don't create the profit and the impacts that you want, right? Because I
Yeah.
realized there are these different parts. There's one which is, people struggle with the amount of information, right? That's the big one. Like, people don't know what is impact, what is sustainability. I think you on your different programs, you have a lot of those building blocks, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the first part, and or things keep evolving as well, right? So I think I told you that, yesterday was that we had triple bottom line, but when actually John Elkington pulled it out and he pulled it back, then he now published Green Swans.
Yeah.
So this that's what I talk about all the time. The evolution as well of humans and how we are seeing the world is changing as fast as everything is changing, which is I'm definitely an optimist, and I strive to find that in the world and in people. So whenever you are with me or around me, you'll see that. And in Clubhouse we can see there are people that are critical people that are I don't know, troublemakers, people that are very positive, and people that are kind of solutions focused and commercial like me, right? So yeah, sorry, I'm digressing a little bit. And yeah.
I do have to say one thing, and I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but one of the things that I really appreciate when kind of in Clubhouse and kind of what I've seen about you and what I think is so important in the quality of leaders is listening, right? Really listening and asking questions and asking good questions and being curious about why that person is coming from a certain perspective, because that's really important. I mean, sometimes you might not agree with what they're saying, but that doesn't mean that you can't respectfully find out more or have a conversation. So had to throw that in there.
Yes, and it is it's interesting how you mentioned about being humble, but the one thing that I realized that over the years, as you start developing this different understanding, and and again, as I say, and that's why I like also the fact that you're looking at. I think you're doing this for your inner circle group, right? The fact
Correct,
that
yeah.
surrounding yourself with people really helps you develop and sometimes observe some of these skills. Sometimes actually you get advice. Sometimes I also, if you're lucky enough, sometimes you have these little moments where you realize. So definitely, I think I talk about this. The power of a question, right? So I think there are not enough books about the questions. That's another book where we should write.
Yeah.
And I always like one of my coaches says what is it, the quality of your answers is it depends on the quality of your questions, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
the great actually I don't think it's his phrase, maybe it's Jim Rohn's phrase maybe, but it's Tony Robbins talks about this a lot, right? And giving people, and I can talk all day, right? So, and I appreciate that you are letting me talk now.
Yeah, of course.
But normally I've learned that obviously you learn a lot more by listening and asking questions, and that's one part. And then the other skill perhaps is this point about being able to, and this is a tough one, right? This is a challenging one. So it's being able to, one, be comfortable. Well, this is much bigger. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, but then being able to have that conversation and that debate, and trying to understand where people are coming from, which is again is many skills in one. I think there's a bit of negotiation skills. There is a bit of influencing skills. So I can actually break it down in my brain because I've been trained in so many different levels by so many people that I can now I have that understanding and awareness, right? But that's also a bit why I'm doing what I'm doing in terms of passing all of that knowledge.
Yeah. Well, what are the skills that you see would be needed to be an impact leader? Because I think we've started talking about that. So I thought I'd throw in that question now. We kind of have respectful conversations, ask the right questions, listen, obviously have the knowledge around the topic that you're focused on. I mean, that's kind of goes without saying, right? But what else, from what you've done, what you've seen, you embody it. So that's why I love having this conversation. So
yes, And I think maybe I'll start with one point, which is that you just mentioned, which I think is very important for anyone that is listening to this, and that is um, in the process of learning.
Mhm.
That I don't think you have to have definitely all the answers. That's one of the biggest things
Yes.
that
Yeah.
I overcame as I got a bit older, which is realizing that I know so little, and
Yeah.
I'm not, no matter how much I study, and I try to get everything, you can only have certain level, right? Um,
Well, and
uh,
I think being aware of that is it's a skill, right? It's being aware that you don't know.
yeah,
You don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot of things that you're going to learn, but you still are not going to have
yeah.
a kind of, you know, overall universal perspective, I should
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I have a pending post on Instagram which is about this kind of how much we know, how much we don't know, but what we don't know is huge, and
Yeah.
that's why I rely a lot on on others, right?
Yeah.
I've learned as well that to try to like be able to tap on experts, right? And by the way, ILA and partners, the partners part is when a bit of like that epiphany about there's so many incredible people in this sector that have been doing it for so many years.
Yeah.
But I can open the doors for them because they don't get invited to the tables I get invited to, in a way.
Yep.
So and then we come into like inclusion at other levels, right? But that having that access, is one of the challenges as well that everyone has, to be able to create that impact, right? Um, so yes, and then definitely you mentioned, right? So that self-awareness, which means so many things to so many people, right? In terms of what you know and what you don't know, and or what you're good at, what you're not good at.
Yeah.
What are your skills, your strengths, right? What can you leverage? In my case, obviously my career in financial services, my network, and then I realized, okay, that's kind of that's a skill, right? So
Yeah.
some people sometimes call me. I don't think I am, by the way, but some people, one friend started with like calling me like, "Oh, JP, you are a super connector," and I'm like, okay, yeah, I do like connecting people. And then more
Yeah.
recently, another great friend told me like, "Oh, you are a bridge builder," which I like that one a bit, like just between and there's so many ways to do this as well, right? So
Yeah.
we are,
Well, and I think the understanding that it is something that where we support each other, and the more people we get on board, the more we can grow this impact, right? We all have different skills, different personalities, different perspectives that we bring to the table, and we're going to be good at different things, and that's okay. So it's not competitive, right? And that's something I think with sustainability, and I think I look at with this for those individuals in this membership program who are looking at sustainability within their organization, they may have found other people within their organization who want to implement a project, and that's fantastic. Like, work together, collaborate, grow it, because we can only win by working together and supporting each other, I think. So I had to throw that one in.
No, totally. That's part of this 1 + 1 equals 3, right? So
Yeah.
definitely. And that's what I'm all about, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on becoming? How can you become or make a difference or be an impact leader within an organization? Let's say you're kind of at a more junior level. I mean, you personally have you've built your career, you build up the skills in kind of the finance and investing and banking sector, and then transitioned over. I think it sounds like, there are a lot of different factors that were involved in that, in terms of kind of what was your passion and what was a calling to you. And then maybe the people that you encountered and the partnerships that you made, I don't know. But I'm curious kind of what advice would you have to someone who's not really who is just starting out and wants to be an impact leader within their organization or within their community? Doesn't have to be within their organization, but
Mm. So, um, so hey, so many things. So, sorry. By all means, sorry. By all means, start by listening to my podcast. That's what I'll say. First of all, the Impact Leaders podcast in terms of and so that people understand. I always say that I need to do a tutorial just on this, but the podcast is about I interview some of the best investors in the world. So it looks at from a almost like an asset class capital spectrum of capital perspective. So you can have somebody do a foundation like UBS Optimal Foundation to a mega the biggest publicly listed investment management firm, right?
Yeah.
Managing billions. So that would be I would say people like have a look at that to see what the world investing is doing, right? Because that's what's driving, funding the solutions, right? That's maybe like a
Yes.
stopping and also like a bit of a
Yeah.
plug. But
And let me interrupt you. Just say for those of you who are part of the membership program, I'm going to be including links for that. So make sure to link to look for the link to the podcast and to the link to more info to learn more and maybe get JP's book, find him on Forbes.com,
yeah.
all those things.
Okay,
Okay.
and that's yeah, no, that's good. I have lots of, by the way, I have lots of quick links. So that one is bit.ly, so bit.ly / impact leaders, capital I, capital L, and you should get it.
Okay.
But then the next point you mentioned reading, right? So I was going to start with reading, but people learn in different ways. I always say, and I've learned that over time, right? So I like audio, so I like audiobooks and podcasts, not much hard copy. But if you're going to read the articles on Forbes, definitely that's the kind of step one to understand what is impact investing, for example, right? Or who's been doing what. And again, I'm coming from an investment perspective, but like the same, I always say to people, kind of another phrase from Jim Rohn, success leaves clues. So you can find, if you are interested in non-for-profit or if you're interested on food or water, there must be another, JP out there doing something similar, right? So you can get all of that. You can jump, years, just by listening, to some of these, people and reading some of these books, right?
Yes.
And then I always say to people, just take a project, right, of
Mhm.
any kind, so that you can kind of learn, so practice as you learn, if you know what I mean. And then, with this. This is we can go on. We can talk about this at length, but this having this yes attitude to some things, to try to just go and test and try and see, if you like it, and without the fear of looking bad or pulling out, or people tend to like stop themselves in their tracks before they even try.
Yeah, you know what, I was one of those people, I got to tell you. And in the Green Change Leaders program, I think I may have mentioned the online program for kind of to support individuals within organizations. One of the first module is growth versus fixed mindset, and kind of how to get past that, because a lot of us are that's the way we learn, and there's nothing wrong with, it's not, I'm not saying my parents did it wrong, it's that there was no other kind of, there's no awareness of another way of being, at least from where I was coming from. And I think from a lot of people, it's like all of a sudden I realized, oh wow, I could think differently, and I could be conscious of my thoughts, and that can help change my behavior, and that can change my life. That's, you know, that's a big aha. Now implementing it takes more time, right? But but yeah, so the growth versus,
Well,
I mean, I'm a reformed perfectionist, and I always say that, and I'm very much a type A personality, and yeah, yeah.
yeah. And funny enough, because the second reason I wrote, why people don't have this, don't create this profit and impact, is because of this lack of foundations,
Mm,
the right foundations. And I'm basically doing a growth mindset a module is
yeah,
part of this foundation. And it's fascinating how. So I think maybe I mentioned in a different way before, but I started to get I go deep. I realize something I go deep. So I started going deep on neuroscience. Trying to
Yeah.
understand human behavior, right?
Yeah.
Um, um, uh, but and by the way, so if I have to break it down, that's one of the building blocks. Growth mindset is one of the building blocks. So you have to get these foundations, right? So that's why, yeah, I think that again I can talk at length about so many different foundations, but definitely I think
Oh,
that
please
growth
go
one,
ahead.
that growth one is one which is key, which then allows you to be able to test, to be able to accept failure, which in itself is not bad at all.
Yeah.
But I was listening to a guru the other day saying, the concept of even like at school, right? The concept is that you have to be the top, right?
Mhm.
One,
Yes.
but everyone has to be the top, but only one can be at the top. So what about the other, 30, 40 kids?
Yeah.
Right? So that well, somebody said that losers, right? And it's fascinating to realize. I was speaking at a conference last week, and there was a game in the break, and
Mhm.
now for a second I thought they should give the prize to the number 20, for a
Ooh,
change. And
interesting. Yeah.
no, I never actually seen it, because then what happened is that everyone has to try their best
Yeah.
because nobody can work out who's going to end up 20, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it happens to be that because you just go, sorry, sorry. I was thinking about this yesterday.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can so whomever is 20 could be anyone. It's going to be a bit of like a draw, but everyone tried their best. So everyone tried their best effort, right? So
Yeah.
the one that is first try as hard as the one that's 20.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
a good idea. I think it's a good idea.
I
I've
think it's a
never heard
great idea.
anyone talking about it before, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
propose
Yeah.
them on some of the game gamification next time.
Yeah. Because,
Um,
yeah, because
mhm.
the reality is, yeah, if you're trying as hard as you can, you might not have the skill set of the other person, right? You might not be good, let's say in school, you might not be good at taking tests. That
Yeah,
doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. I really do believe that everyone is good at something, that they have innate talent, and you finding that is, to me, part of one of life's journeys, and developing that and kind of following your intuition and your heart around that is it's great. I mean, it's a journey, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
always changing.
and yeah, yeah, and I think if I relate that with the other two I mentioned, so about the clarity, so the amount of information we have, right? So I tell people always try to understand the concept. In this case, for me, sustainable impact investing. I think you look at sustainability more broader, but you can look at it in your sector, in your areas of interest, right? You can look at these foundations, to understand. Then also, most importantly, the third point that I talk about having this, because you start developing this vision,
Yeah.
and you start understanding this kind of what your message is,
Yeah.
and you can then start creating your own message. Like I'm now, after years, I think that this year is like I'm so clear about what is my message, what is my vision, what is, but with foundations, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can explain, and you can, and you mentioned before, you can be in a room and you can agree, disagree with people, but you can stand there and say, why this is what you do and why it's important for you. And that there's another skill, which is tremendous, that one, which goes beyond debate and discuss.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's to me, it's not just confidence, it's a knowing. It's almost a visceral being okay, knowing who you are, and being okay if people don't agree with you or think, oh, well, you're crazy, right?
yeah,
I mean, I actually think of a story that I read about Ray Anderson, the CEO of Interface, when he started out. When he started out and he decided that sustainability was what Interface was going to focus on. Uh, people literally thought that he was crazy. Like they literally, I think his CFO, one of their major investors pulled out. His CFO thought that he had gone around the bend, quote unquote. And he basically explained, as a leader, I need to go around the bend because I need to know what's there. And I need to have a longer term vision. And it's just sometimes you stand by what you believe in. It may be something new to you, but you stand by it, and
Mm.
um,
And I'm going to say, I'm going to add, and maybe I'd like to potentially ask you some questions, right? Because, yeah, I'm sure, well, yeah, I'm sure you can share so many things about how you saw your vision developing. You mentioned a couple of times when we were in some conversations, how you've been, I don't remember if you used the word lucky, but I think you said lucky about founding your company, 15 years or so ago. But so a couple of things that come to mind when you mention that example, right? So first of all, I take advantage to say to people that I'm a Christian, so my trust and confidence and everything now that I by the way, and it's only read. I've been a Catholic forever, since born, but really
yeah,
kind of newborn Christian for a couple of years, and I've woken up to understanding that nothing kind of comes from me. And for somebody that doesn't believe, and I come across a lot of people, all I say to people is like just understanding the concept, that there is something beyond you that just by your own strength and your own belief, call it ego, call it whatever,
yeah,
it is super hard, and then and even like the most successful people that are not believers, they tend to be pretty spiritual,
yeah,
as
yeah,
you will find, in terms of how they come to understand that there is something beyond. So I just wanted to like mention that. So
yeah, yeah.
because
Well,
whenever
it's funny because sometimes I'll use the word lucky, sometimes I use the word blessed,
mm,
depending on, but really, I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely something that is so much bigger out there, and we're connected to it, and we are supported. Call it God, call it divine presence, call it the universe, whatever it
mm,
is,
yeah,
in whatever religion.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah, and but then the second thing is about, and I truly understand, and I want to share this with people. So once you start creating that vision, so I have a vision now that I'm gonna, I'm fundraising, to launch an investment management firm, and I'm trying, I have I created this, I ideated, this proposition that we're gonna go and buy existing investment funds, and we're gonna put it all under, ILA funds investment management, and we're gonna create the framework, and and it's a dream, right?
yeah,
But I get it that I have to have that vision,
yeah,
and it's out there. But it's unless I create that vision and unless I put out there and I try to take the steps towards it. In this case, again, in my case, no, I do everything I can, and God will carry me, and it will happen if He wants, right? But I can do as much as I can, right? And I can only do as much as I can, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I think what leaders, and that's what I get inspired by a lot of the leaders I, know as well, and I meet, and I, or I even advise me. So it's that conviction, right? So that's why I
Mhm.
thought that those 2 points are quite interesting. Once you have that trust, that hope, that confidence
Yeah,
beyond, you
yeah,
just do everything you can.
yeah,
But it pulls you, right? It pulls you.
yeah,
That's the other thing.
yeah.
So
Well,
that's why I
and
said, yeah.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, 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 it's fine, fine. So actually today we were on the, you mentioned the Impact Leaders program, right? So we're going through the different stages to try to help, these amazing leaders I'm working with, because I know I've been there, and I know where most people are, because we're all pretty similar in the end, right?
Mhm.
But helping them through these, and even today, like you realize that most people don't even have a personal plan, even
Oh, yeah,
let alone a vision, right? So if you don't have a vision, then it's very, very hard to, and they don't understand, what they stand for, So they're confused, right? So it's quite something. So again, that's why I'm very appreciative of what you do, right? Because you're helping people get that clarity, right? Um,
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about the Impact Leaders program?
yes, yes. So it's very interesting, you know. And again, it's one of those things, you know. Never, I had to be honest. It was kind of something that I thought about and came in different ideas before, but not to the point that it was so necessary right now. And I think again, I mentioned with you with Clubhouse and some of my clients, right? So I realized that I kept getting people coming to me, asking me for all these same very similar questions, right? So how do I do this? Or why we're not, why we're not succeeding with the fundraise, the launch of the investment fund, or why is it taking so long? Um, you know, um, how it's just people coming and ask me for help in fundraising their companies, right? Not only investment managers, but actual companies, right? And when you talk to them, you start realizing, very quickly why they're not being successful, right?
Mm, yeah.
And you observe, and there's very similar trends which are very kind of humane, and then there are very similar trends that apply to what we're trying to do in this case, let's say
Yeah.
sustainable and impact investing, right?
Yeah.
Um, uh, um, and so when I realized that, you know, I realized, okay, I need to do something to, um, so I cannot help everyone, right? So I need to do something so that I can, and we talked about this, on another call, right? I need to do
Yeah.
something so that I can help more people, right, at the scale.
Yep. Yep.
And I can actually leave even my mission to have impact, and all of the moment I had that epiphany, like I can have a lot of impact through, helping them, right? Because
Mhm.
if I help, and obviously I have my own goals as well and my own SDGs. I really care about SDG one, no poverty, right? I really
Yeah.
care, but then I really focus on SDG 4, education.
Yeah.
Because I believe that through education we can push a lot of the others. And then I realized, okay, I can launch the program so that we can, scale this. We can put it out there, even inspired by you, Anca, looking at your program, how you put it all together, as well. So I think I should again tell people, when I look at we met through Clubhouse, you send me the information, I checked it out and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I go also part of my inspiration is you. So
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you.
Which again goes to my kind of role modeling point that I talk about sometimes. There's people next to you, above you, below you, that you can see how
Yeah.
they're doing, and then you can just try to replicate as well. And in this case, that we have so much to do that there's nothing wrong about it, and you should ask people for help. Sorry, I'm digressing, but basically, and then I thought, okay, I'll launch the program,
Yeah.
to basically, help as many people as possible, um, to help them, get from A to B, much faster.
Yeah.
What took me potentially now, I was trying, sometimes it's hard to admit it, the time it takes sometimes some things, but let's say, and it's funny, right? Because it's only depends on how you want to look at it. I look at it and it's maybe a 7 years process that's taken
Yeah.
to, let's say, launch the program when I looked at it, because there's so many other building blocks that were taking place that I realized,
Yeah.
like my book that I mentioned before. That then I say, oh, I can actually use that, because that will help them for this part and that part.
Yeah.
Um, but then you realize that it takes maybe sometimes when you observe, it takes about 10 years, to create something at times. Even like the largest companies, when you look at their cycles or how they grew and scale, into 10 years, you see the mega companies, really taking shape, right? So yeah, so I decided to do that, to be able to like part of it is very personal. So we have these kind of accountability sessions, Part of it is, so I call it the impact diamond, right? So it's kind of awareness, is key, which goes through
Yeah,
education,
absolutely. Yep.
kind of action, which is about, again, getting hold of understanding all of these components and foundations, and then the plan, and then in accountability, right?
Yeah.
Which is the other part, And I always talk, and I think it's the first time that I say on a recorded session, which is I use I don't know if you noticed, but now you realize I tend to use the diamond and the world in most of my rooms and clubhouse, because it's a global approach. I'm trying to help as many people as can around the world, with a bit of a focus on LATAM, giving my some of my intentions and background, but then I also use the diamond because I believe that we are all a diamond in the making. I say.
Yeah.
So and I joke at times. Some of us are charcoal. And some of us are like quite pretty and shiny, right? But you always, there's two things that I like about the analogy. So diamonds are built under pressure, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that people don't get. Like all of this that we do is super uncomfortable all the time, because we're always learning, we're always growing, right? And people think that it's just all gonna be nice and rosy, but it's not. And then you always need to polish it, right? You always need to keep polishing, right? My reading of the day was about the goal and keep growing and keep learning. It just never stops. And that's the beauty of life, like just sorry. I'm getting deep now, but that's the beauty of life. And so then again, so that's the point about the program, right? So these three core areas to make you this create into this and this is where the kicker comes in, right? So is you're an impact diamond, an impact leader, right? You're a diamond, right? And you're a magnet of opportunities now, because you're shining. So the things are gonna just come to you rather than you chasing. And that's what I'm trying to help people. I'm basically sharing with people so that and that could mean many things to many people. But even the fact that you are inviting me to come and join you and have this conversation, is the actual result is speaking for itself, right? So you are coming and inviting me, right? So like this, I can use so many other examples, but I think that is the most relevant. So
well, thank you for everything that you do, because I think it's really helping. It's supporting, it's helping individuals grow, let alone giving them opportunities that they may not otherwise have had to think differently, to grow as a person, to grow a business. So really appreciate it.
No,
I say.
I appreciate it myself. Thank you. It's very nice. It's nice. It's nice when you get to a point where kind of you can do something like this, right? You've been doing it for quite some time now, right? So it's nice. It's nice, and it's definitely possible. But again, you just need to maybe just to close, that's another, like maybe yes, definitely to close, So again, congratulations to anyone that is watching for having joined, by investing in yourself. It has to be part of your plan and this kind of budget, right? Which again, nobody tells you about. But this one of my in my model, in the book, I talk about financial intelligence, which nobody talks about, and even that, relates to that. You can be even a mathematician and an investment banker, and you still be pretty poor in terms of your financial intelligence and building as part of your budget, investment in yourself. Is so it's not even underrated. It's not even in the map most of the time. Which is so I salute anyone in the inner circle, and the green leaders in the circle. So
I mean, I think to that point, we learn that we go to school, and then after that, we're done with educating ourselves and learning. And same thing with finances. We don't get, I mean, that's one thing that one of my many I think concerns, I should say, with the current educational system is that the financial education isn't there. The kind of the whole person, the learning to think, but that's another, we'll talk about that another time. Maybe that's a clubhouse.
But maybe, you know, like I've just had a bit of a, again, and because I am, you know, in this really nice situation right now, spiritually, right? But
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm coming to understand that as society, we're going to keep evolving, right? And eventually, you know, I think it will come a point where we'll start changing systemically and education system, etc. But we're still obviously not ready, right? And part of the beauty of life is this process and this struggle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then maybe to close it, you know, and on terms of it's unfortunate. It's the way it is. You know, it's the way we grow is through being uncomfortable, feeling pain, you know, struggling. So if once we sort it out, we're gonna find something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it's that, and again, so maybe just to close, it's just, you know, in kind of, don't get frustrated, you know, enjoy the process, you know, get the right tools, hang out with the right people, join the right, you know, groups, and it will all work out.
I love that. That is a perfect closing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anca.
I appreciate it.
Before I go, I want to take this opportunity to invite you to partner with me and Impact Leaders. We want to help and do more to raise awareness and create action. The podcast is one of the catalytic initiatives to help deliver on our mission to raise awareness to help transition capital into sustainable and impact investing faster and at scale. If you would like to support it, you can become a patron and also make one-off contributions at bit.ly/IL Patreon. So we're also looking for 3 founder sponsors to support our mission to enable the transition of capital into sustainable impact investing, as well as 10 impact leaders interested to join our program. Please reach out via our contact us page at ilapartners.com or go to bit.ly/IL Club to register your interest. It is bye for now, and until our next episode of Impact Leaders. And God bless you all. Thank you for listening to Impact Leaders. Impact Leaders is brought to you by ILA and Partners. Please connect with us to work together in the transition of capital into sustainable and impact investing.